All right, welcome back. We are moving into one of the final two sections of the course. So we've done all this stuff here, and we're going into the reflections section. And we have two videos for you in this section. So the first video is going to be a review. We're just going to kind of have some free-form discussion of everything that we've covered so far. And doing this helps integrate the material that you've learned. Obviously, the more time you spend with something, the better you get at it. So this review will allow us to spend a little bit more time with the material and just sort of synthesize everything we've been through. And then we're also going to have a video here for sharing your creations. So if you practice, and I'm so strongly tempted to go and do another 1 or 2 or 3 OAuth 2 implementations just because it's fun and it's interesting and I don't have it completely nailed yet. And part of me has the impulse to do that on video. But also I have the impulse to move on to the next material. So there's like 2 ways to learn, right? And so that's we're going to be creating more courses. And so, but here in Share Your Creations, you're going to see how as you create stuff from what you've learned in this course, you could push this to the course code repo, and we'll show you all about that here. And then you could share it with other people. And then we'll move into the farewell section. So first and foremost, doing a little bit of review of everything we've learned. And we're just going to go through this course outline. This is like the course setup and how to succeed as a student and all of that stuff. And then we jumped into JSON encoding. We saw encode and decode and how to use those and how they differ from Marshall and unmarshal. So just a little housekeeping with JSON. And we did some hands-on exercises, which is great. You have anything you want to say about encode and decode? We used that when we were doing our OAuth 2, right? That was part of our code. We did the encode and decode.
Most APIs out on the internet that you can use JSON for communicating. Yeah. So knowing how to use the JSON package is very important if you ever want to talk to another server.
Yeah, we didn't encode, but we decoded, and by decoding that allowed us to avoid that entire response body, reading it and getting a byte slice and then converting it to a string and all that, right? We just said, here it is, and it was able to read the response body and it handled it all for us.
Yep.
So that was kind of nice. And we deleted a couple of lines of code in doing that. And then we looked at authentication basics. And so we went over the difference between authentication and authorization. And so I'm just going to drop down here. And we'll use the outline here just to kind of see the high level. And then we'll hear for the details. And so authentication was about determining who you are. And I really like this thing where you know who you are, what you have, and what you know. And then we also talked about two-factor authentication. Versus authorization says what permissions you have, right? What permissions you have on a system, right?
Yeah.
And that was authorization, right?
Yep. So
just to make sure.
So yeah, just like for example, that Amazon thing, you authenticated as acting as your own account on Amazon, but then you were only authorized to view your profile.
That's right. So nice integration for what we ended up doing with that last OAuth 2 deal. And then we did HTTP basic authentication. And basic authentication, this was tag 9. We used for basic authentication username and password and authorization header and keyword basic. That's right. There's the authorization header. And we put username password together, convert to base 64. And I'm spacing a little bit on this.
We didn't really use it in any of the hands-on exercises, so it's not really used too much anymore.
We just talked about it.
Yeah.
We didn't actually implement it. If we look at that commit on 9, GitHub goes to 11. Take me there, and look at my repos.
Well, it's Golang Arch. So.
Golang Arch. And then we go to commit tag 9. What was the code that we had when we were there? 9999. Spinning dial and main.go. We had package main, base64, standard encoding, encode to string, slice of bytes, user and pass. So just
comparing to what they actually put for basic authentication, or that's how basic authentication works is base64 it.
And then we had, let's see what this is. Oh, that's our Go mod. Okay. Okay, so base64, because basic authentication, there is that header and the keyword basic uses authorization header with the keyword basic. And then the username and password together, and then we convert them to base64 and puts generic binary data into printable form. Base64 does that. Base64 is reversible. Never use with HTTP, only HTTPS. Use basic authentication to log in. So some people some people use this for, like, how does that, the basic authentication, remind me on this here.
So some people will use that for their actual main login system, their login page when you send your username and password, instead of just submitting a form. So all of our hands-on exercises we're using submitting a form, but if you're using if your API is JSON API based and your front end is using JS, like a JS framework like React or Vue or something, you may be more likely to use to send that username and password through the basic authentication for your login attempt, as opposed to just submitting a form.
Okay. So one way to get your username and password would be through a form. Another way to authenticate a user would be through Auth2, and then a third way would be to have this authorization header. And the header would be the authorization header with the keyword basic, and then we could put the username :password in there, and then check those when they got to the server.
Yep.
And that's just another way. We'd base64 it to get it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, but there's other ways to do it too. Like I said, submitting a form or even just putting it into a JSON body of the login request. So lots of different ways. So there's nothing really special about the basic authorization header over any other way to send the username and password back.
And I'm just looking at the different headers that are here.
So there's authorization.
Yeah, and so here's authorization header and basic.
Yeah, there's their example.
That's funny. And so you just set that one to basic. There we go.
Yeah.
And then we did password storage. So we talked about, you have any more to say about that?
Nope.
Okay, good. See, this review is helping me, reminding me. Then we talked about password storage. And so never store passwords. Instead, you want to do one-way encryption and hash the values of the password. And hash, by definition, is a one-way encryption function, right? Hash comp sci wiki. And hash function can be used to map data of arbitrary size fixed values. The values returned by hash function are called hash values. The values are used to index, use of hash function index. I'm just looking for where it says one way.
They may not be encryption, but they are one way.
Yeah, just algorithmic. Let's see if it says it back here. Hash comp sci, one way. They are one way, right? One way function. Yeah, collision-free hash function is a one way function.